Hello, welcome to another session with me. So in this session we will be configuring Splunk to receive the syslogs. Okay, let's move on. So before we start this session, let's do a quick recap of what we had completed in our last session. We created an index called Linux logs in Splunk Indexer, and we installed a universal forwarder in DVWA web application, which is based on Ubuntu server, and then we configured the universal forwarder to send logs to the Splunk Indexer. Then we verified the logs which was coming from the DVWA application into Splunk, so we were able to see multiple web requests from the different servers. Right, let's jump into today's session. So in this session, before we get into our session, let's talk about Syslog. So what is Syslog and why we need it? Syslog is a system logging protocol. It is defined in the RFC standards and it's widely used by many devices in the IT industry to store the logs or send or receive the logs in a certain format. So it primarily uses TCP or UDP port number 514. And why we need this, especially in a Splunk environment. In our last session, we have seen the universal forwarder forwarding the logs from the Ubuntu server to the Splunk indexers, right? So the web server was based out of Ubuntu, and while downloading the universal forwarder for Ubuntu in last session, we were able to see the supported platforms for the universal forwarders, right? So it was Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and other variants of Linux like SolarWinds, etc., Solaris, etc., right? And let's take an example of other devices like routers, switches, firewalls, etc. We cannot install universal forwarders in these devices, right? That's the reason why we need syslog, and we will be enabling syslog port receiving on the indexer, and we will configure server to accept the syslogs in this particular today's session, right? So in today's session we will be enabling Splunk Indexer to accept the syslogs, and we will create a new index called syslog for storing the logs which is received using syslog protocol, and we will configure Ubuntu servers to send the syslogs to Splunk, and we will verify those logs in Splunk. Let's get started. So as a first step, I'm going to open my lab manual, which is available in the GitHub. I will provide the link in the video description as well. Please go back and refer this in case if you want to follow on, right? Sorry, there you go. Right, this is the Splunk lab manual that I've created. So there are minor changes to the lab environment, so I have updated my script to include a couple of inclusions, like I have exposed the port 514 syslog port, and also I have given CLI access to the Kali Linux server. So here is a script, short script. It's a copy pastable script to copy the new lab infrastructure. So I'll show you how to do it. So open your lab and then make a folder, mkdir Splunk lab version 2, and then get into that folder lab version 2 and run the command which is given here. So what basically it does is it just downloads the content of the new lab file and stores in your local machine, and that's it. As soon as the new lab file is downloaded, it actually starts the menu. It really helps us to start the lab. As you can see, the menu options have slightly changed. The option 5, which used to be stop the lab, has now become access to Kali CLI, and option 6, it's used to stop the lab. So I'm going to choose the option 1 to start the lab. Sorry, I have to run this as a sudo, and I'm going to start the lab. The lab is started now. Now let's go and check the status of the lab. I'll just select option 2. Yes, I can see the Splunk instance is still in starting stage. Let's give it a minute. It is still starting. Yes, we can see it is healthy. Now let's follow the lab manual. Right. The first option in our lab manual is to configure the syslog receiving in the Splunk. So for that, what we need to do is access your Splunk UI. Log into Splunk. That's it. Once you've logged in, click settings under data inputs. Now under local inputs, select TCP and then click add new. This will help us in specifying the various ports. So we are interested in adding a TCP port 514. Just mention that and then leave all other fields as optional. Click next, and then in the source type choose select and then the source type as syslog, and then scroll down, and now we have to create a new index called syslog. Click save, leaving all the default fields as is. Click review and then submit. That's it. Now we have successfully configured the data input. We have enabled the Splunk Indexer to listen on port number 514. Now let's go back to our Unix or Linux server. Right. So this is my Linux server. I am going to check if my Ubuntu server has a syslog service enabled and running. So I'm just going to do system control status r syslog service. Right, we can see the syslog server is already running here, active and running. Now we can go back and configure the syslog to be forwarded to our Splunk Indexer. So there is a command to do it. I'm just going to the lab manual again. I'm just going to copy this particular command and then paste the same command here in the terminal. So what this will do is this will forward the syslog forwarding to a Splunk Indexer IP, which is 100.100.100.100, and that's it. The next thing that we need to do is just restart the syslog process in your Ubuntu machine, and that's it. So we have configured our Ubuntu machine to send the logs to the syslog server. Right. how do you in case if you face any issues like with syslog service, you can run these commands. The first command is to check whether the syslog is running or not. If it is not running, then you can install the syslog using this command, and then you can start it. Once the syslog service is started, then you can run this command to forward the logs, and then once you restart the service, then we will be able to see the data in the Splunk. So let's go back to Splunk UI. In the search and reporting tab, you can enter an SQL query like index equal to syslog. That's it, and then click search. There we go. So we should be able to see the syslogs coming from our machine. So if you expand this says host is my lab, and if you go further down, you will be able to see many informations, right? That's it. So just to verify it, the host name is my lab. You can go back to the machine, and you can see this is my lab. So we are now able to see multiple logs coming from the server. So what you can do is you can mention the time window like last 30 seconds and do a search, maybe not, maybe 5 minutes. Yeah, 0 of 26 events matched. Okay, yeah, there you go. So since last 5 minutes we are seeing these logs. As you can see, we should be able to see the logs for stopping the service, because we restarted the service, right? That information is also available there. So we have deactivated it, and all the information, whatever the information, configuration changes, whatever the activities which are happening in the Ubuntu machine, we will be able to see it here. That's it for the demo. Thank you.